Chapter 1, The Law. In this chapter we'll show you how to keep your customers safe from the threat of food poisoning and how to protect yourself and your employer from the risk of prosecution. You'll discover how the UK and EU law governs your legal responsibilities and dictates the actions that you must take as a food handler in the UK. So come on, let's join Marcus, who's at the Loom Makers restaurant, ready to get the course started.
Hello and welcome to this Level 2 Food Hygiene course. I'm Marcus Kilmington, I'm one of your course trainers. You've joined me at the Loom Makers Bistro, a lovely little gem in Burnley, Lancashire, to start your journey into the latest food safety law, science and practice. In this course, we're going to walk and talk you through everything you need to know to meet the latest food handler standards. We're also going to help you apply the knowledge to your workplace. You're about to discover some top tips and a few trade secrets that you'll be able to apply to your job to keep your customers safe and healthy, hopefully make your life just a little bit easier. So to the course, let's have a quick look at what you can expect to learn. There are 11 chapters to study, each with 2 videos. The first video in each chapter is going to cover the essential learning that you'll need to operate safely. The second video is going to help you prepare for the final exam. And the material we're going to cover includes the law, hazards, bacteria, personal hygiene, cleaning, allergens, safe cooking, reheating, avoiding cross-contamination and much, much more. So here we are at the beginning of your course. This is Nick. And we're going to start by looking at food safety law in the UK, what it means in your place of work and what's expected of you as a food handler. That's the name the law gives you if any aspect of your job involves preparing or cooking of food.
Thank you, Marcus. Okay, the first point to make is that every law that affects food safety in this country is actually based on EU law. Over the last 20 years there have been several laws passed that collectively now represent your legal obligations as a food business owner, as a supervisor and as a food worker.
So first of all there was the Food Safety Act 1990, closely followed by the General Food Regulation EC 178 2002. What a sexy title, I know. Now these 2 laws established the basics of food safety law and what was expected of all food producers.
That's correct. Now, the EU legislators then actually had a bit of a break. Quite frankly, they deserved it, didn't they? And then they came up with
the Food Hygiene HACCP Regulations Act of 2006.
This law was all about you having to prove you have taken all reasonable efforts to ensure food safety. Please note the phrase, all reasonable efforts. This is crucial and we will return to this later on.
Next came the Food Information for Consumers Regulation 1169, what a mouthful, which was all about food labelling and allergenic ingredients. Then we've had the Food Safety and Hygiene England Regulations 2013, followed by the Food Law Code of Practice 2015. This last one tied up on food businesses having to register properly with the local councils and mobile and street vendors improving their Food Safety Act.
It gets really exciting when we start talking about law. Okay, the good bit, you don't need to know all the details of these. We've included a mention of all these laws in the course because it's worth being aware of them and knowing that you can be fined or prosecuted under any of these laws if you get food safety badly wrong. That's a key bit. Now that includes food business owners, operators, managers, supervisors and you as a food handler.
Yes it does. Now you're probably thinking, Marcus and Nick, this is scary stuff, but don't stress because our advice to you as a food handler is simply apply what you learn in this course and if you maybe are unsure, simply ask your supervisor. Maybe you're the boss and you've got nobody else to ask. Check with your local environmental health officer or talk to the Food Standards Agency.
They're there to help. Okay, one final point before we move on. Yes, we have EU-wide food safety law, but you also get regional variations in how the laws are actually applied. One difference to note is, for example, Scotland has a higher cooking temperature guidance than the rest of the UK. Don't worry about that, more of this will come later on in the course.
Okay, let's take a look at what the law says that you must do as a food handler. Now, you're going to see Nick and I in front of our whiteboard, and from time to time during this course, you're going to see Nick and I do a classic whiteboard moment. So this is the first one. Now, as a food handler, you need to keep yourself clean, you need to keep your workplace clean, and you need to wear suitable protective clothing. Now, I'm going to test you now, but I'm going to have a bit of fun with Nick, see if he knows what the answers are. Because over here, we've left a few that are blank. So Nick, what do you think that you need to store at a safe temperature as a food handler? Come on!
Food?
Yes, of course it's food. Right, Nick, what do you think that you need to prepare at a safe temperature?
Food?
Yes, it is, isn't it? And what do you think that you need to display at a safe temperature? Can you guess?
Food.
Yes, indeed, food. Now, do you notice anything about those three, Nick?
Apart from it says food. Yeah. Okay, some quite important point here. Display food at safe temperature. Prepare food at safe temperature. Store food at safe temperature. We're going to come on to temperature later on, but as you're gathering pretty quickly, it's extremely important in the entire process.
So what do you think this one might be up here then? If you must inform your employer of any symptoms of a food-borne illness. Nick.
Thanks.
So you need to inform your employer if you have a foodborne illness or you've got any symptoms of a foodborne illness.
Good point.
Okay, so hopefully all fairly easy and obvious, but let's have a look at the last one again. You must tell your employer, this is by law, if you've got any symptoms of a foodborne illness. And it's also good practice to let them know if you have any close contact with anybody else that might have got symptoms of a foodborne illness as well. So you might be thinking this, you might be thinking, what then, Marcus, are the symptoms of a foodborne illness? I hear you ask. Well, according to one of my favourite societies, the Microbiological Society, there are a variety of different symptoms depending on what's caused the illness, but it's likely to be things like abdominal cramps, fever, diarrhoea, sickness, bloody diarrhoea, flu-like symptoms, septicemia, or even meningitis. Not nice at all. No. And you could be suffering from any one of those symptoms. Make sure you tell your supervisor.
Okay, that's your basic legal obligations as a food handler. So what else does the law require you to do in practice, Marcus?
Well, what the law states is that food handlers, which mean you, must not do anything that would expose food to contamination, or to sell food with an expired date mark, or food that is unfit for human consumption.
We're still at the whiteboard and we're going to talk about employers and the law. As we said here, employer requirements.
Yes, we are. Now, I'm going to make this really, really difficult for Nick here, because guess what I've done? Look, I've left 3 of them blank, and I'm going to test him and I'm going to test you at the same time. So first of all, think about this. What must be registered with the local government, do you think? What might that be? Come on, Nick, what is it?
Premises?
Yes, it is. Premises. Let me use my bestest handwriting. So let's go to the next one. This is even harder. Come on. What must be designed, equipped and operated to prevent contamination? What do you think? Come on.
Premises?
Oh, you're right again, Nick. Goodness me, I thought I was making this really tough for you. And the last one, what's got to have, Nick? Adequate hand washing facilities, do you think as well?
Premises?
Come on. Yes, indeed it is. Premises again. I thought I made that even the hardest one for you, but obviously not, because it's pretty good. So, you also need to ensure that your staff are trained and supervised to work hygienically and safely. And you also have, as an employee requirement, to assess risk to food and take the appropriate action, don't you? Do you want to say anything on that one?
Yes, thank you for that, Marcus. Okay, we're talking about an employee. You might not actually be the employee, it doesn't actually matter, but if you ever think about it, the business is going to be registered, so you are going to be working in a legal business, let's put that down. It must be designed properly. It's going to be equipped, it's got operated to really prevent cross-contamination and protect your safety. So you've got a bit of responsibility to have a think and have a look at how the building's been designed as well. Yes, it's got to have adequate washing facilities because cross-contamination, we are the worst contaminant, and we'll talk about that much later on. You've got to be trained and supervised. This is what you're doing here today. And the last thing, the business actually has to assess the risk to the food, where it can minimise obviously the risks and take action to stop, for example, pathogenic food poisoning bacteria occurring. But you are an employer, you're a worker in this business, you also have a legal responsibility as well, don't you?
Absolutely. The question you might want to ask yourself every time you're dealing with food is what I'm doing right now going to create food safety?
Exactly.
So hopefully by now you're starting to realise just how well the customer is protected in the United Kingdom. But remember this, these controls are only as good as the people who are carrying out the service and preparation. Do you know what? That's you.
Okay, next up, law enforcement.
Now this is what the director calls a casual coffee break moment. Look at this. There's nothing in there, look at that. The other thing is, he's asked me and Nick about 5 times to sit upright. And you can't see this, but Nick's got like 3 pillows behind here to keep him upright.
Thanks. Okay, so we've covered the law and your basic legal responsibilities. Let's now have a quick look at who is responsible for enforcing that law within the UK. In other words, who's going to inspect you at work and who's going to potentially prosecute you if you get food safety badly wrong.
Yes, now every local authority in the United Kingdom, so that means your local council has got the power to control the sale of unfit or unsafe food. Environmental health officers, EHOs for short, have got the power to enter any food business without notice at any reasonable time, and also to carry out an inspection or perhaps these samples for investigation. An EHO may also impose an improvement order, could close down your business, might fine or even prosecute you, and it's illegal to prevent them from gaining access to your premises. Failure to cooperate with an environmental health officer is a criminal offence. Add that to the list of what not to do.
If an EHO believes there is an imminent risk to people's health, they will issue a hygiene emergency prohibition notice. Now that actually immediately closes your business down straight away. They may also impose a prohibition order on the owner, and that will prevent you from running any food business for a minimum of 6 months.
So let's think about it a bit more about the role of the environmental health officer. Your EHO's role is to carry out routine inspections that consist of the following tasks.
Yep. They may investigate food poisoning outbreaks.
They may offer advice and potentially investigate food complaints.
Yep. They're there to ensure product safety and fitness.
They're there to offer advice and monitor conditions and hygienic operations.
They're there to ensure compliance with legislation.
They're there to offer advice.
They are there to remove suspect food and have it condemned if proved unsafe.
They're there to offer advice, but could prosecute companies and individuals, which could mean you, for breaking food safety laws.
Yep. We talked about advice then. The one final comment we're going to make is that the EHO is not your enemy. Food poisoning is your enemy. If you see an EHO entering your premises, be nice to them, help them, work with them. They are there to help you, so to be honest, make a good impression with them.
And Nick and I would also suggest you having some nice chocolate biscuits when they come as well. Okay, one final important term we can't finish this chapter without covering is due diligence. Now, due diligence means in law that you've taken all reasonable efforts to ensure that food produced is safe. Remember that phrase from earlier on. You've done everything you can possibly do to make sure that food you serve is safe. And we'll explain what we mean by all reasonable precautions as we go through the course. But written records are also a very good way of proving due diligence. If you can prove that you've cooked the food at the right temperature, you've stored the food correctly, and you've served the food at the right temperature with a set time limit, these can be used as a due diligence defence. Also, ask your manager what forms you need to use.
Well done. Oh, actually. Okay, a couple of examples for you. Let's have a think. First one, you see signs of a pest activity. For example, you've seen a rat, or you're finding droppings in the food preparation area. If you report this to your supervisor, you have shown due diligence. If your supervisor then decides to do nothing about it, any fine or prosecution by your environmental health officer will be imposed on the supervisor or owner of the business, not you.
Did you know in London you're only about 6 feet away from a rat at any one time? Today it's about 2 inches.
That hurt. Okay, you want another example now, don't you? That hurt.
I do, come on, give us another example.
Okay, right, if you're ill and you actually report this to your supervisor before starting work, you again have shown due diligence. If your supervisor then says, don't care, get yourself into work, the fine from a local AHO will be imposed on the supervisor, not you.
Okay, that's it for this chapter. Next up is chapter 2, microbiological hazards. That's bacteria to you and me.